Some truths don't need words. Some hearts understand, long before the confession. In the quiet hum of an early morning train station, a woman named Rachel stood perfectly still. All around her, a blur of hurried footsteps and fleeting figures rushed past, each on their own journey. But Rachel was an island of stillness in that river of motion. Her gaze fell to the phone in her hand, the screen glowing softly. A message waited and read. With a gentle press of a button, she locked the screen, choosing silence over certainty, her intuition already painting a picture words could only confirm later. Her life with Alex had become a carefully choreographed performance of domesticity. They shared meals, their forks clicking against porcelain in a rhythm that once felt comforting but now sounded hollow. Their conversations were calm, polite exchanges about groceries and bills, devoid of the laughter and secrets they once shared. The smiles they exchanged were practiced, polite masks that no longer reached their eyes. Alex had changed. He was physically present, but his mind was 1,000 miles away. He'd drift off mid-sentence, his eyes unfocused, lost in a world she was no longer a part of. Rachel noticed everything. She saw the way his thumb would absent-mindedly trace the edge of his phone, the slight hesitation before he answered a call, the way his laughter sounded different when he spoke to someone else. She saw the empty chair at the breakfast table that he used to occupy before leaving for work an hour earlier than he ever had before. She heard the loud, insistent ticking of the clock on the wall, a sound that filled the growing silence between them, marking the seconds, minutes, and hours of their slow and spoken unraveling. And then she found it. Tucked away in the back of the closet, behind a stack of old sweaters, was a half-packed bag. Not a suitcase for a business trip, but a duffel bag filled with essentials: a toothbrush, a change of clothes, a book he'd claimed to have lost. It was a quiet declaration of departure, a secret life waiting in the wings. Alex, wrapped in his own world, mistook her silence for acceptance. He thought that because there were no fights, no accusations, no tears, everything was fine. He believed he was navigating this secret transition smoothly, without causing a ripple. But Rachel's silence wasn't ignorance, it was observation. It was the quiet gathering of evidence, the patient waiting for the full story to reveal itself. She was giving him the space to live his truth, even if it was a lie to her. Her heart was breaking, not with a sudden crack, but with a slow, grinding ache. She was grieving a love that was already gone, mourning a future that had vanished before her eyes. The silence in their home wasn't peace, it was the deafening sound of an ending. Instead of confronting him with anger and accusations, Rachel began to prepare. Her movements were quiet, deliberate, infused not with rage, but with a newfound, chilling clarity. She wasn't planning a dramatic exit, she was reclaiming her own narrative. She started revisiting their shared history, not with nostalgia, but with the sharp eye of a detective. She pulled out old photo albums, the glossy pages filled with smiling faces from years past. As she traced the outlines of their younger selves, she could pinpoint the exact moment the light in their eyes began to dim, the precise strip where the distance first crept into their embraces. It was a subtle shift, a barely perceptible cooling, but looking back now, it was as clear as a fault line after an earthquake. She saw the gradual erosion of their intimacy, the slow, steady drift that had pulled them into separate orbits while they still shared the same bed. Meanwhile, Alex finally started to sense a change in the atmosphere. The silence he had once found so convenient now felt heavy, unnerving. Rachel's calm demeanor, her polite but distant smiles, started to feel less like acceptance and more like something else. Something he couldn't quite name. A prickle of unease ran down his spine. He decided he needed to talk to her, to finally lay his cards on the table. He rehearsed the words in his head, crafting a gentle, considerate speech. He believed he was still in control of the situation, the director of this final scene. He would choose the time, the place, the words. He would orchestrate the ending. He planned it for that evening, a quiet conversation after dinner, where he would finally confess and set them both free. He felt a sense of relief, the misguided confidence of someone who thinks they hold all the power, completely unaware that the play had already reached its final act without him. The evening air was thick with unspoken words. The dinner plates were cleared, and the familiar, heavy silence settled over the room. This was the moment Alex had planned for. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding a nervous rhythm against his ribs. He turned to Rachel, his expression a carefully constructed mask of sorrow and regret. "Rachel," he began, his voice soft, "can we sit down for a minute? There's something I need to tell you." He gestured toward the sofa, ready to deliver his rehearsed speech, ready to control the narrative of their ending. But before he could utter another word, Rachel met his gaze. There was no anger in her eyes, no tears, only a profound and unsettling calm. She didn't move toward the sofa. She simply stood there and spoke, her voice steady and clear. "I already know," she said. The words hung in the air between them, simple, direct, and devastatingly powerful. "I know you've been living somewhere else, not in distance, but in attention." A look of utter shock washed over Alex's face. He froze, his mouth slightly agape, the carefully prepared words dying on his lips. It was as if she had reached into his mind and pulled out his deepest secret, laying it bare under the harsh light of their living room. All his planning, all his careful maneuvering, it all evaporated in an instant. He had expected tears, shouting, questions. He had prepared for a storm. He was not prepared for this serene, all-knowing calm. He realized in that gut-wrenching moment that she hadn't just suspected, she understood. She knew more than he ever thought possible. The power he thought he held, the control he believed was his to wield, was just an illusion. He wasn't the one ending things. He was just the last one to know it was over. But the real twist wasn't her knowing. It was what she did next. There was no dramatic storming out, no slamming of doors. Instead, Rachel calmly walked over to the side table and picked up a small, white envelope. She held it out to him. Confused, Alex took it. His fingers fumbled as he opened the flap. Inside was not a long, angry letter, but a single, small piece of paper with a few lines of elegant script. It read, "I stayed long enough to be sure. Now I'm choosing myself." He looked up from the note, his mind reeling. He was trying to process the words, trying to understand. She wasn't reacting to his confession, she was acting on her own decision, one she had made long before this moment. She had already grieved, processed, and moved on emotionally, weeks, maybe even months ago. While he was living his secret life, she was quietly building her own exit strategy, not one of escape, but of self-preservation. She turned, picked up a small bag he hadn't even noticed by the door, and walked out. There were no tears, no backward glances, no lingering anger. Just a quiet, peaceful departure. He thought the ending would begin with his words. But she had already written it. The front door clicked shut, the sound echoing in the sudden, profound emptiness of the apartment. Alex stood frozen, the note still clutched in his hand, a flimsy piece of paper that held the weight of his failure. He slowly sank onto the sofa, the very spot where he had intended to break her heart. The silence he had once craved now pressed in on him, suffocating. It was no longer a comfortable buffer but a vast, lonely void filled with the ghosts of unspoken truths and mischances. The clock on the wall continued its relentless ticking, each second a painful reminder of the time he had wasted, the love he had let slip away. Outside, Rachel stepped into the golden light of the setting sun. She took a deep breath, the fresh air filling her lungs, a stark contrast to the stale atmosphere she had just left behind. A single, small smile touched her lips, not a smile of triumph, but of release. Of freedom. She was walking not away from him, but toward herself. Understanding doesn't always come with explanations. Sometimes, it arrives in the silence that follows. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore the quiet complexities of the human heart. We'll see you in the next one.